Hello everybody. In the 15th century, the bright blue sky of Albania was suddenly shaken by a powerful force from the east. Under the command of the Ottoman Empire's vast and rapidly moving army, the fate of this Balkan land was forever altered. Albania, once fertile with Christian traditions, slowly became entangled in the grasp of the Ottoman Empire, which controlled nearly the entire Balkan region. This was an inevitable moment in history, when a land once known for its magnificent churches and strong Christian traditions began to be influenced by a new religion that arrived with the large Ottoman forces, Islam. The spread of Islam to Albania was not an overnight process. As part of the Ottoman expansion strategy, Islam gradually permeated every layer of Albanian society. Under the shadow of Ottoman forces, the appearance of mosques and Islamic places of worship became the first signs of the changes taking place. Although many Albanians remained faithful to their Christian religion, the presence of Islam began to open new doors for those wishing to adapt to the new system brought by the Ottoman rulers. However, it was not only through swords and battles but also through more prudent and gradual policies that Islam began to be accepted. For many Albanians, Islam brought the opportunity for a brighter future, especially for those trapped in poverty or hardships under the old rule. It was not just about religion, but about hope for a better life. In the midst of rural communities, Islam arrived in a very humane way, not by force, but by offering new possibilities. In a world full of challenges, becoming Muslim was not just about belief, it was also about a safer, more stable life with greater opportunities. In the Ottoman world, those who embraced Islam were given the chance to participate in administration and the military, granting them access to power and wealth. For many Albanians, this opened doors to opportunities previously out of reach. The economic and social benefits were not to be ignored. Under Ottoman rule, Muslims were freed from certain taxes that burdened Christians. For most Albanians, this was a strong incentive to convert. Those who embraced Islam not only gained greater rights but also became part of a broader system that promised access to more resources and better protection. However, despite these advantages, Islam did not come without challenges. Many Albanian communities, particularly in the isolated mountainous regions, refused to join Ottoman power. They fiercely maintained their Christian identity, making the northern regions of Albania the last stronghold for their religion. But despite significant resistance in some areas, the process of Islamization continued rapidly in the southern part of Albania, closer to Ottoman influence. The first mosque built in Albania was a powerful symbol of changing times. As more Albanians embraced Islam, mosques became more than just places of worship. They became centers of the newly forming community life. Inside the mosques, prayers were offered, knowledge was passed on, and strong social bonds were formed. It wasn't just adults who came, children also began learning the Arabic language and Islamic teachings at madrasas established by the Ottoman rulers. Even in the most remote villages, nestled in valleys and lush green hills, small mosques began to appear, bringing new life more connected to a broader world. The Islam that entered Albanian society was not just about religious rituals, but about a new way of life. In daily life, people began adopting new habits, from the way they dressed to cleaner and more organized eating habits, all inspired by Islamic teachings. Moreover, the cultural influence of Islam brought changes in art and architecture. Beautifully constructed mosques began to dominate the Albanian skyline, with towering domes and high minarets reaching towards the sky. Every corner of the city and village became a witness to a growing and developing culture, harmonizing with nature and forming a new identity for Albania. In the end, the arrival of Islam in Albania was not just a religious event, but also a bridge between two worlds, the Christian world that had existed for centuries and the Islamic world that was newly emerging in the Balkans. In Albania, these two worlds did not oppose each other, instead, they complemented each other and formed a richer identity. As a nation situated at the crossroads between East and West, Albania became a meeting place for two great civilizations, each with its beauty, challenges, and powerful influence. Islam in Albania not only survived, but grew into an integral part of its society. Over time, Albania became known not only for its Christian heritage, but also for its deep-rooted Islamic traditions. With the presence of mosques, madrasas, and new traditions, Islam became an inseparable part of the land and soul of Albania. As the skies of Albania began to turn golden in the morning light, a great change seemed to unfold across the green countryside and the mysterious mountains. Islam, which came gently, slowly became a part of daily life. The process of Islamization in Albania was not just about changing religions, but also about merging with the land and the traditions that had existed for so long. The spread of Islam was never rushed. It arrived slowly, like the wind slipping through the gaps in the pine trees of the Albanian mountains. In villages, amidst fertile fields and clear-flowing rivers, the Albanian people began to adopt the teachings of Islam. It wasn't just through the grand mosques built in the cities, but also through the daily interactions between people, who began to embrace new rituals, from fasting during Ramadan to women wearing hijabs, and prayers accompanying each activity. Here, Islam came without pressure, but with conviction and sincerity. Many families, who had once only known Christian life, began to feel peace in the Islamic prayers that flowed so naturally into their lives. Albanians, who had once only known crosses around their necks, now began to adorn their homes with Arabic calligraphy. The sound of the adhan from mosque minarets became a familiar backdrop in the mornings, while sincere prayers at sunset ascended to the sky, as the heavens changed colors. Albania, once known for its strong Christian heritage, had now become home to two worlds, the Old World and the New World. Islam, with all its culture and traditions, did not replace but rather merged with and complemented. New practices brought by Islam, such as the celebration of Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, began to play an important role in Albania's social life. All of this became part of the long journey of culture that developed in this land. However, not all regions of Albania accepted this change easily. In the north, far from the hustle and bustle of the Ottoman-controlled cities, there was a different world, the Christian world that stood firm. The mountains of Albania, with their rugged terrain and stunning landscapes, became the last stronghold for the deep-rooted Christian tradition. In this region, the process of Islamization was not smooth. The people in northern Albania, with unshakable determination, refused to bow to the changes brought by the Ottomans. They held on to their churches, preserved Christian traditions, and rejected the teachings of Islam. Despite the tensions between the two religions, life in northern Albania continued peacefully, with Christianity remaining a central part of their identity. However, over time, even with resistance, Albanian society as a whole remained open to change. In the southern regions, which were closer to Ottoman power, Islam became more deeply rooted in daily life. Even in the more isolated mountainous areas, Islam slowly found its way into the hearts of people who sought a better life under the new system. As time passed, Albania became a land rich in diversity. Although the majority of its population embraced Islam, especially after years of Ottoman influence, the Albanian Christian identity remained intact, and both religions began to coexist in extraordinary harmony. The process of Islamization never erased the Christian traces that had been there. On the contrary, the two religions began to influence each other, shaping a unique Albanian culture. In every corner of the country, one could see the blending of two great religions. Magnificent mosques stood in every major city, while ancient churches, located in the Albanian countryside, remained silent witnesses to the long history. The Albanian people, who had become accustomed to differences, celebrated various festivals from both religions. Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha were celebrated with joy among the Muslim population, while Christmas and Easter continued to be honored by the Christians. In many ways, Albania became a living example of how two religious traditions could coexist and enrich each other. As its people celebrated religious freedom, they also celebrated the cultural diversity that formed their identity. However, the journey of Islam in Albania did not end there. After the Ottoman occupation ended and Albania gained its independence in 1912, the country entered a new era full of challenges. During the harsh and anti-religious communist period under Enver Hoxha, religious freedom in Albania was destroyed. The country declared itself the first atheist state in the world, and all religious practices were strictly prohibited. Mosques, churches, and other places of worship were closed or destroyed. Both Muslims and Christians had to live their lives without practicing their religions openly. Despite the communist regime's attempt to suppress religious beliefs, they did not succeed in erasing Islam from the hearts of the Albanian people. The faith that had long been rooted in their culture remained alive, even though it had to be hidden and practiced in silence. With the fall of the communist regime in 1991, religious freedom was restored. Mosques that had been forgotten began to be rebuilt. The younger generation, who had never known religious life, began to take an interest in their Islamic heritage and history. In the midst of this newfound freedom, the Albanian people began to practice their religion once again, without fear and without doubt. Albania, now a Muslim-majority country, rediscovered its Islamic roots. The rebuilt mosques became not only places of worship but also symbols of revival and freedom. Islamic festivals like Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha were filled with joy, and Islam once again became an integral part of the country's social and political life.